name's Humphrey, and I'm from King's, and I'm here to present our paper, Looking Past Screens. This was undertaken by myself, with Tim, who's over there in the audience, Adam and Sarai, who are back in the UK as collaborators. So, AAC devices, or augmentative and alternative communication devices in their full name, can empower people to connect, express themselves, and form relationships. The recent ubiquity of mobile devices and even smartwatches has led to some exciting changes for the field. One AAC app, to give you an example, Gorilla Quotago, has 100,000 daily users. Unfortunately, despite these promising results, abandonment can remain common because devices are quite stigmatizing. It's also very hard if your AAC device is a tablet to carry this on the go, and it can obstruct non-verbal pathways for communication using gesture, eye contact, these sorts of means of communication. So, considering these challenges, in this work we explore whether, perhaps it's timely to look beyond mainstream tablets. In recent years, Microsoft released the HoloLens. We've had the Apple Vision Pro this last year. We've even had this crazy humane AI pin, which was a startup exploring pico projection for interaction. So in this work, we seek to understand whether we can explore these means to support communication. So previously, mixed reality, including head-mounted displays and smart glasses, have been used to support AAC users. One of the positive things they found was that it was really good for multitasking, and it gave someone kind of unobtrusive access to language supports during conversation. So we really work hard with and co-design with people living with aphasia, and this is the first work to explore mixed reality to support communication with aphasia. For those who don't know, aphasia is a language impairment caused by damage to specific brain regions, and it's experienced by over 1/3 of stroke survivors. Currently, about 2 million people in the US and 500,000 people in the UK live with aphasia. So to start, we held 2 co-design workshops with people with aphasia and speech and language therapists. Then outputs from these co-design workshops led to a focus group evaluation of 3 non-tablet AAC devices we developed. And we used a Leica questionnaire and just held open discussion about these technologies. So, how on earth do we get people to envision and think beyond tablets? That's a real challenge. So in workshop 1, we explored people's perspectives using diegetic prototypes from film and adverts of the latest mixed reality technologies. So for these workshop activities, co-designers engaged in video clip viewing of some tech from a film, followed by a tangible talking maps activity where they critiqued what they had seen. So this was a really fun and accessible way to get people thinking about the space. So I have a short clip of this. So we showed people, this is it sped up, we obviously didn't show it at the speed, but we had 10 clips of just different technology and mixed reality technology to really engage people and motivate them to think about a variety of different form factors, wearability, private and public interactions and affordances. In the next workshop, we transitioned to more focused low-fidelity prototyping in response to video prompts we had developed, which were sort of docu-fictions about people with aphasia. So the goal was just to accessibly support co-designers to be really creative and envision a range of potentially exciting mixed reality AAC technologies to support their language needs. So I have a short video of the clips that we played to give you a flavor of what people were designing mixed reality AAC technologies for.
Currently, it's 11 a.m. and John is at a trendy London coffee shop, which is busy and noisy. John is in the process of queuing and then ordering a coffee for himself and his wife, who is running late on the train.
So that just gives you a very short, small flavor of what we played to people.
Currently.
After having done these initial co-design workshops, we performed thematic analysis, which I encourage you to read in the paper. Just to give a high-level view of that thematic analysis, it broke down into suggested applications envisioned by people to enable them to live and communicate independently, as well as anticipated barriers and concerns people had about mixed reality and things that they thought that would really curtail their adoption of this technology to support their communication. So please refer to the paper to read more about these. So just to dive in on some of the barriers, multiple co-designers were really worried about mixed reality not being that accessible, for people living with aphasia. They thought that it was too heavily dependent on physical gestures, and many of the people we collaborated with have bodily paralysis and hemiplegia onset by their stroke, so it's very hard for them to perform a lot of these physical gestures to control these devices. They also expressed concern with cognitive load. Having all these different displays within a headset they thought would be confusing and confounding and create a lot of visual clutter. Another really interesting critique centered on the fact that these headsets are very socially prominent and kind of quite antisocial, so they were very critical of the actual form factor. They thought they were pretty ugly devices. So some quotes, Brian expressed the fact that he only has one hand due to his hemiplegia, and he said that, this two-hand gesture I'm seeing in the video, this would be completely inaccessible. Roland rather amusingly said, I wear glasses already, and those ones from Apple look like ski goggles. Ruby finally said, as an older person, and for myself, I really struggled to work with all that technology, so she was just afraid of it in some ways because she thought it would be too complicated for her. Nonetheless, we pressed ahead and we got co-designers to build a variety of low-fidelity prototypes. So this included, an arrow-based navigation tool that gives you some form of directives within smart glasses. This includes speaking notes to help you prompt and remind you during pressurizing dialogues. Projected maps were considered helpful for directions and storytelling. And also importantly, co-designers had really strong personal tastes about the smart glassware design. With all these findings, we then went and built 3 mixed reality technologies to get people to probe with and explore and play with. This included Pico Project AAC, which was just a simple smartphone app which connected to a Pico projector and allowed people to augment the environment with expressive communication props to support their communication. So here's a quick video showing you how it works. It's just got a simple map of London and it let you project that onto the screen. Next we have Prompt AAC, which was just a simple wearable smart speaker that was designed to support a user living with aphasia with private audio prompts or all public electronic speech. We enhanced the wearable speaker by using Apple's new personal voice library to let someone personalize their voice and have an AI representation of their voice. So I have a demo video of it with my voice. That was a bit quiet, but that's kind of what you can do with the personal voice library. Then we had the HoloLens-driven language communication support. So this was a head-mounted display that was designed to scaffold people with aphasia's communication across a multitude of locations.
I have had a stroke and aphasia. I am trying to get to Angel Tube Stop. I have had.
So with these simple probes, we then went and held focus groups and got people's perspectives on them. The focus groups were facilitated supervised usage amongst participants with aphasia and were followed by just open discussion. From the outset, people quite liked the Pico Project AAC. They said the form factor was really cool. They liked the fact of being able to manipulate the size of projections. They liked the fact it made text very, much more readable. Sharing photographs was really popular for storytelling, but people critiqued the insufficient brightness of the Pico projector. So some quotes, maps and photos projected really helped storytelling, but Tanya kind of critiqued it by saying it's a bit weak, the projection, it would need to be quite dark, the environment. With regards to the Prompt AAC feedback, people were really impressed with the ability to store lots of phrases, and they liked the ease of adding phrases. They were amazed by the digital AI representation of voice. They thought that was hugely impressive technology, but that voice, as you can see from the video clip, wasn't terribly loud, so they critiqued the functionality of the voice, and they said that it would maybe not be loud enough in certain environments in which they needed to communicate. They also said that training a model with 150 phrases was not terribly aphasia accessible. So, Gerald said that really does sound like you, impressed with the AI. Ruby said, you could use it at an airport and you could be missing luggage and you could program this and rely on this instead of your own speech. And Patrick said, to criticize it a bit, it's a bit quiet if you went to the library. So, turning to the HoloLens, the feedback was that the device was, really hard to use and still a bit of a work in progress. The input and control of the AAC application, despite my best efforts with the SDK to make it accessible, was very challenging for novice users. Gestures and design more generally of the headset was considered quite antithetical to kind of normal communication practices. So here's some quotes, from Patrick. It's a fascinating concept, this. Full of bugs, I've never tried anything like it before. Gerald said, I must admit, it looks really weird. He's interacting with something that's not there. Roland kind of criticized it, saying this is perhaps a bit overwhelming for someone who has had a stroke. And then Sophie came up with it, suggested the really great point, you lose perhaps the shared communication experience with others by having this kind of private display. So to just round off this talk, some of the notable findings, people really liked loud and functional voices that you could use over perhaps the more bespoke AI-driven voice. People had a really strong desire for fashionable AAC devices that reinforce their sense of style and identity. And communication is massively linked to confidence, so I think AAC devices should recognize this. Head-mounted displays were almost unusable for older adults and those with paralysis and hemiplegia, so we need to do better with these SDKs and the means of interaction. Nonetheless, using all these diegetic and crazy prototypes and using some AI and participatory design was really fun, and it was really enjoyable for people to try this expensive mixed reality technology, and they really did generally enjoy it. So I strongly encourage people to continue to explore this space. And yeah, looking to the future, we have Meta's Orion smart glasses announced recently, so there will be growing importance for this research and making this technology accessible. And I will finish by thanking Aphasia Reconnect, our partners. Without their support and help, this work would not at all be possible. So thank you very much for listening.
All right, we have time for a question, and we would appreciate for our online attendees if you could come up to the mic, and we could also bring the mic over to you. And whoever's our next speaker might want to come up and start getting ready to.
Is it on? Yeah, there we go. Hi, I'm Kathy McCoy from the University of Delaware. Thank you very much. This is really very, very interesting. And I think that there's a lot of great things here. One thing that I'm wondering is an immediate reaction to such technology, and then what happens with longer term use. So there were a couple of things like the voice, you could add to lots of different technologies, which seem to be one of the things that draw them. It also seemed to me that some of the different prototypes kind of were scaffolding things in different ways, like different parts of the communication. And in the long run, might things change if they use things longer, or could learn the best ways of getting different things, or how do we take advantage of that?
Yeah, no, that's a really fantastic question. Thank you for that. I completely agree with the things that you're saying. I think over time and with familiarity, people may get better at using things. And so perhaps a weakness of what we did is we were just testing more out of the box what people found useful, helpful. That being said, the SDK for the HoloLens insisted upon two-hand gestures for certain interactions and certain ways of using the headset, which is like totally inaccessible, right? No matter if someone gets better at using that technology or learning how to use it, right? You need a two-hand gesture, and that's something which someone with aphasia with severe hemiplegia does not have. So I think it's an interesting space nonetheless, and I think it's still super exciting to get people in these underrepresented communities to try these new technologies, to envision themselves using them, because the way that it's framed in media and also in the sense of the way the devices are promoted is they're often not promoted for these communities necessarily, and I think it's very unfair the fact that we don't encourage these people to adopt and use these technologies. And some of the people who we collaborate with are big adopters of virtual reality. They really love it and use a lot more advanced tech that you would initially think that they would, you know. So it's getting over those barriers. But yeah, I appreciate the question. I look forward to chatting more after.
Thank you.
All right, I think we probably should move on. I'm sorry, I see there's another question. So hopefully you two can connect afterward. And I didn't double check if there were questions online, so whoever it is, so whoever can see that, please let me know in future if there are questions online. Okay, wonderful. So we have our second speaker here. Jackie Johnston from Monash University is going to be talking about designing accessible adaptations for an electronic toolkit with blind and low vision users.